Tiny Tina's Wonderlands has gotten away with showing us very little in terms of gameplay, and with only a month left until release, you guys deserve a better look at what to expect with this new standalone adventure. So here it is, thanks to IGN, the first mission in the game. You'd be expected to be using crappy starting weapons with no spells and basic abilities, but at the very least, this demo build they're showing off gives us a good look at what to expect, so let's get into it. The mission starts with you walking to a typical fantasy city, but in a very Tiny Tina move, she changes up the parameters and suddenly it's under attack by a skeleton army.
A massive skeleton army is sieging the city!
This is a Dungeons and Dragons style adventure narrated by Tiny Tina, so expect wacky and unpredictable situations. After all, she's not one to stick to a narrative. This is encapsulated by just how you have to get into the city by seducing the drawbridge. You do this by hitting a heart that appears on screen, most likely a clever hidden tutorial to get you used to using the melee button. The bridge opens and you enter the city, immediately taking on a variety of fantasy creatures using your guns, abilities, spells, and melee attacks. So we can see spells replace grenades in that with a press of a button, you throw out a spell. However, unlike grenades, there isn't any ammo or even any mana. Instead, they'll have their own unique cooldowns which depend on the spell itself, your attributes, and your abilities and gear. Amulets, for example, have been said to reduce cooldowns. As you can see, some spells have relatively low cooldowns, so you could make builds that focus entirely on spells. In the gameplay, we see a spell that summons a lightning strike with a super low cooldown. We see a dark magic spell that summons a bird of sorts, but apparently all dark magic spells cost health to cast. We also see a meteor spell which deals a lot of damage. As we can't see the UI in this footage, which I would really like to see, we can't see exactly how long these cooldowns are. We also see some class skills in use. The player is a Berserker, a Wonderlands take on a melee class with a frost focus. This ability is Dread Wind, and you can see just how effective it can be. You can have one class skill equipped out of the 4 you'll have access to, 2 from each class. Yes, you can multi-class, and more of that in my last Wonderlands video. Class skills have a low cooldown, so expect to be able to weave them into your spells for interesting combos. We can see the player casting a spell, then leaping in with the other class ability, Feral Surge, to shatter his enemies to pieces. From the start of the video, the Berserker adds frost damage to his weapon shots, so don't expect all guns to carry this frosty effect. There are entirely different gun manufacturers in Wonderlands than there is in Borderlands, but many carry similar properties, like bullets ricocheting on critical hits. I won't try to break down each individual gun we're seeing through the gameplay, as we're likely to make mistakes, but most of them have a fantasy component, like crystals on the top that's reloaded by sprinkling magic dust over them. Most have some kind of unique effect, like beams that lock onto your targets as you fire, this one shooting a spread of magical ammo that homes in on targets, another that creates a ball that flies slowly outwards, and when you change to alternate fire mode, you can shoot it to link to enemies. Then there is this shotgun, which targets a point for arrows to rain down upon your enemies. We can expect truly wacky weapons in Wonderlands. Then we get a look at melee, which is what you would expect from a Borderlands game, in that it's mapped to a button instead of being a main weapon. However, unlike Borderlands, you can get a variety of different weapons, and they'll have their own effects, animations, and even range. So yes, you can make a melee focused build. Good time to bring up the enemy variety. We've seen ones that use guns, bows, spells, and even those that throw rocks. This kind of RPG looter shooter lends very well to a fantasy setting, and I'm surprised it's taken Gearbox this long to do it. So you can run, slide to avoid the archer's arrows, and start laying into them in melee. Each hit staggering the target, letting you really lock down those pesky ranged enemies. Each melee weapon that drops has the same RNG mechanic and bonuses that you've come to expect with the guns in Borderlands, so rare melee weapons will have bonus effects. Though while playing, IGN reported that the two-handed swords that dropped instead had the effect to make you close the distance to your target when you swing by gliding towards them, a leap of sorts, making them very effective at chaining together kills and abilities. This one-handed axe has a frost effect that explodes outwards from the target, slowing and freezing those around it, though this is most likely a part of the Berserker's passives as it applies to his Feral Leap too. Finally, we arrive at the gate to the castle and clear out the remaining skeletons. Tina then congratulates you for defeating all the enemies, and this is the end of this particular level. So, what did you think? Does this game look to be something you'll pick up, or has the gameplay turned you off? Let me know below. For everything Wonderlands, check out my other videos, and for everything RPG, keep your eyes on Slashdantix. Ciao friends.